The first thing I noticed wasn't the shouting. It was the way the operating room went too quiet. Like every machine, every breath, every heartbeat on the monitor suddenly had an audience. I was standing over my patient with my hands inside an open abdomen, gloved and steady, focused on a bleeder that didn't care what day it was or who my parents were. The overhead lights were brutal, white hot. The suction hummed. The anesthesia monitor chirped softly with every stable beat. Then the doors burst open. Not the normal swing of a circulating nurse coming back with supplies. This was force. This was urgency. This was people who didn't understand what sterile field meant and didn't care. Two uniformed officers stepped in, followed by hospital security. "Doctor," one of them said loud, "stop. Now." My entire team froze. The scrub tech's hands hovered midair. The resident's eyes snapped to mine, wide. The anesthesiologist didn't move, but I saw his fingers tighten on the chart like he was anchoring himself. My patient was open on the table. I couldn't just stop. I kept my voice low, controlled, and I did what surgeons do when chaos tries to enter the room. "Everyone hold," I said calmly. "Suction stays on. Nobody touches the field. Anesthesia, maintain. I'm not leaving this patient unsafe." The officer took a step closer. The circulating nurse moved in front of him automatically. "You cannot come past this line," she said. "This is a sterile area." The officer didn't look at her. He held up a printed report in one hand and a tablet in the other. "We received an emergency call," he said. "We were told there is an immediate threat." My hands went cold, not from fear, something sharper. Recognition. Because the way he said told wasn't casual. It was the tone officers use when they've been given a story that sounds serious enough to interrupt a hospital. "What threat?" the anesthesiologist asked, voice clipped. The officer's eyes flicked to the report again. "We were told the surgeon is practicing under fraudulent credentials," he said. The resident made a small sound, half inhale, half disbelief. I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I kept my hands steady where they were and asked the only question that mattered. "Who called?" I said. The officer glanced down at the tablet, and I watched his expression shift from professional urgency to something more cautious, like he'd just stepped onto thin ice. He read the caller name once. Then he looked up at me, careful. "Brooke Carter?" he asked. I nodded once. "That's me." His eyes dropped again. "Caller is listed as Marlene Carter." My mother. The room didn't just freeze, it sharpened. Because everyone in that OR knew what it meant when a family member calls the police on a surgeon mid-procedure. It meant the accusation wasn't about public safety. It was personal. My mother hadn't called because she believed I was dangerous. She'd called because she knew exactly where she could hurt me with one phone call. I kept my voice even. "That report is false, I said. "I am in the middle of a live surgery. If you have a concern, you speak to hospital administration outside this room." The officer's jaw tightened. "Doctor, we were directed to make contact immediately," he said. "Not in here." The circulating nurse snapped, louder now. "This is a patient." The officer hesitated for the first time, eyes flicking toward the open abdomen on the table. Even he understood suddenly what he had walked into. The other officer, older, more experienced, held up a hand to his partner. "Okay," he said, calmer. "Doctor, we're not trying to endanger your patient. But we have an allegation that you are not licensed to practice medicine, and we have to verify identity." The accusation was so insane, it almost felt like a joke. Almost. Except my mother knew how licensing worked. She knew how quickly a rumor becomes a hold becomes a review, and a review becomes a suspension that ruins your reputation long before anyone clears your name. My hands remained inside the patient. I said, "Call the hospital's legal counsel. Call the chief of surgery. Call the on-call administrator. You do not pull a surgeon off a case because someone's mother is performing." The older officer looked down at his tablet again. "We were told this is urgent," he said. "Then treat it as urgent without killing someone," the anesthesiologist said flatly. I made a decision in one breath. I couldn't finish the case with police in the room. I couldn't focus with my team staring at uniforms instead of the field, and I couldn't leave an open patient. So I did the only thing that kept the patient safe and kept me in control of the record. "Page Dr. Patel," I told the circulating nurse. "Now, attending backup. Tell him to come to OR. 2 immediately." The nurse nodded and moved fast. "Charge nurse," I said, still calm. "Document the exact time these officers entered the room and the names on their badges. Also document that the patient was open." Her eyes snapped to me, then she nodded hard. "Already doing it," she said. I looked at the older officer. "You want to verify me?" I asked. "Fine, but you do it when my patient is closed and stable." He hesitated. Then the younger officer lifted the printed report again and said, "Doctor, the report says you've been using someone else's license number." That line hit differently, because it wasn't just, "she's unstable." It wasn't, "she's a threat." It was a claim designed to trigger the hospital's most feared response: credentialing action, mandatory reporting, immediate suspension pending investigation. My throat tightened, but my voice didn't change. "That is a lie," I said. "And whoever wrote it doesn't understand how easy it is to prove." The younger officer glanced at his tablet again, scrolling. Then he looked up at me and said, "There's more." I didn't move. I didn't blink. I kept my hand steady and said, "Read it." He swallowed, then read from the last line out loud. "As soon as she's confronted," he read, "the caller states Dr. Brooke Carter will try to flee the hospital because her medical license was revoked, and she has been warned not to operate." The resident went rigid. The anesthesiologist's eyes narrowed like knives. And the older officer's face changed completely because that last line wasn't just an allegation. It was a directive. It was the kind of sentence that makes people treat you like a criminal before you even step out of the room. Then the officer lifted his eyes from the tablet and said quietly, "Doctor, this report includes a state board case number." A state board case number. That was the part my mother understood. Better than most people. Because you can survive one angry family member. You don't survive a whisper that turns into a credentialing hold. My hand stayed steady inside my patient while my brain ran through what that sentence was designed to do. Make the hospital panic. Make the police treat me like I was about to bolt. Make my own team doubt me for one fatal second. "Page Dr. Patel again," I said calm. "And page the house supervisor. Now." The circulating nurse nodded and moved fast, already documenting. The charge nurse had her phone out, typing, capturing badge numbers, times, every word the officer said, because the only thing stronger than an accusation is a timeline. The older officer took one step back from the sterile line, finally registering the reality of blood, suction, and a human life on a table. "Doctor," he said quieter, "we have to follow up. If there's a board case, then follow up outside my OR." The anesthesiologist snapped. "You can't arrest a surgeon with a patient open." "I'm not arresting anyone," the officer said, but his eyes flicked to the monitors again like he wanted out of the room. "I didn't give him emotion. I gave him procedure." "Stand by in the hallway," I said. "You can verify whatever you need with administration in 5 minutes when my patient is closed and stable." The younger officer glanced at his tablet again, scrolling like he was searching for something that would justify what they'd done. "There's no attachment," he muttered, almost to himself. "Just the narrative." That was my mother, too. She never brought proof. She brought panic. Dr. Patel arrived in less than 3 minutes, already scrubbing, his face sharp with the kind of irritation surgeons reserve for interruptions that endanger patients. He leaned close to my shoulder. "What happened?" he asked. "False report," I said, low. "Police in the room. I'm closing now. I need you ready in case. They try to pull me out the moment we're stable." His eyes flashed once toward the uniforms. He didn't waste words. "Finish," he said. "I'm here." Those 2 words calmed my team more than any speech could. I tightened a suture, controlled the bleeder, confirmed hemostasis, and moved through closure with a focus that felt almost unnatural, because the body doesn't like being threatened while it's trying to save someone. But my patient came first. Always. When the last layer was secure and the sterile drapes were coming down, I stepped away from the table, peeled off my gloves, and spoke clearly. "Time out," I said. "Patient closed. Stable. Anesthesia. Confirm." "Stable," the anesthesiologist replied. Only then did I turn to the circulating nurse. "Open the door," I said. "But nobody comes in past the line." She cracked it. The older officer stayed in the hall, exactly where he should have been all along, and hospital security stood between him and the room like a physical reminder that this wasn't his scene to control. "I'm stepping out," I told Dr. Patel. "You have the room." He nodded once. "Go," he said. "I'll finish dressing and orders." I walked into the sub-sterile corridor, still in scrubs, hair tucked, mask down around my neck, my heart steady only because I refused to let it race in front of witnesses. The younger officer lifted his tablet immediately like it was evidence. "Dr. Carter," he said, "we have to confirm your identity and verify your license status." "Fine," I said. "You'll do it with the hospital, not by reading my mother's story out loud like it's fact." His jaw tightened at the word mother. The older officer stepped in, voice calmer. "We have a duty to respond," he said. "The caller reported you were operating after revocation and would try to flee." I looked at him. "Where exactly would I flee to?" I asked. "I'm in an operating room in a locked surgical suite wearing clogs." A flicker of embarrassment crossed his face, quick and human. Before he could answer, the house supervisor appeared. Badge, tablet, clipped tone, the kind of person who has ended 1,000 hallway emergencies without raising her voice. "I'm Supervisor Lang," she said. "What is this?" The older officer explained, shorter now, less confident. The words sounded smaller outside the OR. Supervisor Lang turned to me. "Doctor," she asked, "are you licensed and privileged?" "Yes," I said. "Then we verify," she replied, and tapped her tablet. "Credentialing file, right now." She pulled up my profile in the hospital system. My photo, my department, my privileges, active. She held the screen toward the officers. The younger one leaned in, scanning it like he wanted to find a crack. "This doesn't address the board case number," he said. Supervisor Lang didn't blink. "It does," she replied. "If there was an active revocation, our system would show a hold. It doesn't." I watched the older officer's attention shift. He wasn't looking for drama anymore. He was looking for proof, because proof is what keeps cops out of lawsuits. "Show me the board case number again," he said to his partner. The younger officer scrolled and turned the tablet slightly. I saw it. An identifier, the kind of thing that looks official because it has letters and numbers stitched together. Supervisor Lang frowned. "That's not a format I recognize," she said quietly. Dr. Patel stepped into the corridor then, still wearing sterile gloves because he'd come out mid-task to protect the room. "Are we done?" he asked, voice flat. The older officer raised a hand. "Almost," he said. Then he looked at me. "Doctor, do you consent to us verifying your license through the state board database right now?" "Yes," I said immediately. "Please." Because I knew what they would find. Nothing. Supervisor Lang opened the state board site on her tablet. She typed my name with slow precision, like she understood that a misspelling could become another weapon. The page loaded. My license status appeared in plain text. Active. No disciplinary action. No revocation. No emergency suspension. The younger officer's shoulders dropped a fraction, like the air had left him. The older officer stared at the screen, then looked back at his partner. "Run the case number through dispatch," he said. The younger officer stepped away and spoke into his radio, low. While he did, my phone buzzed in my pocket. One email notification. Then another. Supervisor Lang saw my eyes flick down and said, "What is it?" I didn't answer until I read the subject line because I didn't trust my own mother not to be 3 moves ahead. Urgent. Administrative hold. Physician privileges. My throat went tight, but my voice stayed even. "It's credentialing," I said. "They just placed a hold." Dr. Patel's head snapped toward me. "On what basis?" he demanded. I opened the email. It was short, cold, and carefully written. "Due to a report received alleging fraudulent credentials, your clinical access has been temporarily suspended pending review." Report to medical staff office immediately. Supervisor Lang's face changed. Who initiated this? She asked. Before I could answer, the younger officer returned from his radio call, looking pale. He glanced at the older officer and said quietly, "Dispatch can't match the case number to her. It belongs to a different person in a different county." The older officer's mouth tightened. He looked from the board site active back to my email, hold, then to the report that named my mother as the caller. And for the first time, he didn't look like someone responding to an emergency. He looked like someone realizing he'd been used to manufacture one. Supervisor Lang turned to hospital security. "Lock, down, or access," she said. "No one enters on hearsay. Dr. Patel continues the case. Dr. Carter is to medical staff with me." Then she looked at the officers. "You are welcome to speak with our legal counsel," she said, voice crisp. "But you will not interfere with patient care again." The older officer nodded once, a controlled apology without words. I didn't feel relieved. Because my mother hadn't just sent police into my operating room, she triggered the one thing that could damage me even if I proved everything. An internal hold, a hospital record, and if my badge stopped working before I reached medical staff, it would mean my mother wasn't done. She was escalating. My badge didn't work at the employee entrance. I held it to the reader and heard the soft error tone. One short beep that sounded harmless until you realize what it means in a hospital. Access denied. A security guard at the desk looked up, already cautious. He wasn't hostile, he was doing... What policy trained him to do when a clinician's access suddenly changes? "Doctor?" he asked. "I'm on an administrative hold," I said evenly. "Supervisor Lang is escorting me to medical staff." He checked his screen, then nodded once and stepped aside. "This way," he said. It wasn't dramatic, but it was humiliating in a very precise way. Being walked through corridors you've walked 1,000 times as if you might steal something. Supervisor Lang didn't soften it with pity. She kept it procedural, which was exactly what I needed. "Stay calm," she said quietly as we moved. "We clear this fast, but we do it clean." "I'm calm," I replied. My phone buzzed again. Another email, incident report opened, or disruption. Then another, risk management request, statement required. My hands stayed steady. My stomach didn't. Because I knew what my mother was trying to do. Not just embarrass me, contaminate the record. If my name became attached to police intervention in OR, it wouldn't matter how false it was. It would follow me in credentialing committees and peer review whispers, and the kind of conversations that start with "I heard." Medical staff was on the 3rd floor, behind a door that always looked calm from the outside. Muted colors, framed certificates, polite signage. Inside, it felt like a control room for reputations. A coordinator in a cardigan looked up when Supervisor Lang entered and immediately stood. "Laura," Supervisor Lang said, clipped, "we have an emergency credentialing hold placed on Dr. Brooke Carter based on an external report. I need the origin, now." Laura swallowed. "We had to place it," she said. "It came in marked urgent." "From who?" Supervisor Lang asked. Laura glanced at me like she was afraid I'd bite. Then she looked back at her monitor. "It was routed through our compliance intake," she said. "Allegation of fraudulent credentials." Supervisor Lang leaned in. "Show me the intake record," she said. Laura clicked into a case management system and turned the screen. Case number, timestamp, intake method, phone call. My jaw tightened. "Who took the call?" Supervisor Lang asked. Laura's eyes moved to another line. "It was transferred from the hospital switchboard," she said. "It came in as state board urgent. It was escalated." "By whom?" Supervisor Lang asked. Laura hesitated again. Then she said a name. "Dr. Harlan," she said. "The medical staff physician lead. The kind of person who could place a hold with one click and never feel the bruise it leaves on the person underneath." Supervisor Lang's eyes narrowed. "Where is he?" she asked. "In a committee meeting," Laura said quickly. "He told me to issue the hold and send the notice." I didn't react outwardly, but my mind locked onto one detail. State board urgent. That was my mother's language. She didn't call and say, "I'm upset." She called and played authority. Supervisor Lang pointed at the intake summary. "Caller identification," she said. Laura clicked again. A line appeared. Caller name as stated. Caller number. Laura's voice lowered. "They said they were calling on behalf of the board," she said. "But the number, it doesn't match the state board line." "Read it," Supervisor Lang ordered. Laura read it out. It wasn't a random number. It was my mother's office number. The one printed on her business cards. The one I hadn't called in years. I felt a hard coldness settle behind my ribs. Supervisor Lang looked at me. "You said your mother called the police, she said. "Yes," I replied. Laura blinked rapidly. She called us too?" she whispered, as if the idea offended her sense of proper channels. Supervisor Lang didn't whisper. "She did," she said, and pointed at the screen. "And she did it from her own number." My phone buzzed again. A text, this time. From my mother. "You should have stayed in your place. Now everyone will know what you are." I didn't answer. I handed the phone to Supervisor Lang without a word. She read it, then her mouth tightened. "Print the intake record," she said to Laura. "Full audit trail, timestamps, call routing, the note text. And I want the recorded call if it exists." Laura's hands shook slightly as she clicked. We do record compliance calls," she said, "but only if they come through the main intake line." Supervisor Lang leaned closer. "It came through switchboard," she said. "Then there is a switchboard recording too." Laura nodded quickly. "I can request it," she said. "It'll take a few minutes." I kept my voice steady. "While we wait," I said, "I need written confirmation that the state board lookup shows my license active and that the case number in the police report is not mine." Supervisor Lang didn't even blink. "Do it," she said. Laura pulled up the board site again, printed the license status page, and stapled it to the intake printout. Active, clean, no action. Then she opened a dispatch verification email that had come in moments earlier, forwarded from hospital security after the officer radioed it through. "Case number does not match Dr. Brooke Carter. Different county, different person. That was the kind of proof that doesn't care who your father is." Supervisor Lang took the papers, scanned them, and said, "This hold gets lifted." Laura swallowed. "Only Dr. Harlan can remove it," she said softly. "He placed it." Supervisor Lang's eyes went flat. "Then we get him," she replied. She stepped out into the hallway, made a call, and returned with the kind of quiet fury that doesn't raise volume, but changes outcomes. "He's coming," she said. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a hospital system alert. "Clinical access suspended, effective immediately, as if the email hadn't been enough. They wanted to make sure every door knew I'd been marked. I didn't let my face change. I just asked, "What about my patient?" Supervisor Lang's tone softened by half a degree. "Dr. Patel is finishing," she said. "Or leadership has it covered." Laura returned with a new printout. "Switchboard sent the call file," she said, voice tight. It's attached to the case." There was an audio icon on her screen. Supervisor Lang pointed. "Play it," she said. Laura clicked. Static for a second. Then a recorded greeting. Then a woman's voice came through the speakers. Controlled. Emotional in the right places. The kind of tone that gets immediate attention. "I need to report an urgent danger," my mother said. "This is about Dr. Brooke Carter. She is operating right now under fraudulent credentials. You need to stop her before she hurts someone." My throat went cold, but I didn't flinch. The recording continued. A staff voice asked, "Ma'am, what is your relationship to Dr. Carter?" And my mother answered without hesitation, warm as poison. "I'm her mother." Then she added something that made Supervisor Lang's head turn sharply toward the screen. "I've already contacted police," my mother said, "but you need to place an immediate hold. She will try to flee as soon as she's confronted, because Dr. Harlan knows what happened last time." The room went silent. Laura's face went pale. Supervisor Lang's eyes narrowed. Because my mother hadn't just said a name. She had said how to get action, like she'd done this before. And before I could speak, Laura whispered, almost to herself, "How does she know Dr. Harlan?" "How does she know Dr. Harlan?" Laura whispered, still staring at the screen like it had betrayed her. Supervisor Lang didn't answer with speculation. She answered with motion. "Pause it," she said. "Do not close that file. Print the audio, transcript request, and the call metadata. I want the routing path, the exact extension that transferred her, and the exact time Dr. Harlan authorized the hold." Laura's fingers moved fast, shaky now. The printer started again. I stood there in scrubs, holding my phone loosely, listening to the silence after my mother's voice cut off. The worst part wasn't hearing her lie. The worst part was hearing how confident she sounded doing it. Dr. Harlan arrived 3 minutes later. He came in like this was his building and we were inconveniences. Tall, silver hair, tailored coat over a suit. The kind of physician who doesn't get interrupted often and hates it when he is. "What is going on?" he asked, not looking at me first. He looked at Supervisor Lang, then at Laura, like he was assessing which staff member had failed him. Supervisor Lang didn't flinch. She turned her tablet toward him and said, "You placed an emergency hold on Dr. Carter based on a caller who identified herself as Marlene Carter." Dr. Harlan's eyes flicked to me for the first time, cool and sharp. "A report came in marked urgent," he said. "I acted in the interest of patient safety." "You sent police into an operating room," Supervisor Lang said, "with a patient open." Dr. Harlan's mouth tightened. "I did not send police into an operating room," he replied. "Police chose their response." The older officer from earlier stepped into the doorway at that moment, as if summoned by the word police. He didn't come in aggressively. He came in controlled, professional. "Doctor," he said to Dr. Harlan, "we were told there was an emergency threat. We were also told the surgeon would flee. That was in the narrative." Dr. Harlan's gaze sharpened. "And did you verify any of it before you walked into an OR?" he asked. The officer held his ground. "We verified with the report we received," he said. "And now we are verifying it was false." That word hung in the air. False. Dr. Harlan turned back to Supervisor Lang. "My job is not to litigate family disputes," he said. "My job is to protect patients." Supervisor Lang's tone stayed level. "Then protect this one," she said, and tapped the license status page. "Her license is active. The board case number is not hers. The call came from her mother's office number. You still issued a hold." Dr. Harlan's jaw worked. "We place temporary holds pending review all the time," he said. "It is standard." "It is not standard to do it off a call that announces itself as a mother trying to stop a surgery," Supervisor Lang replied. Dr. Harlan's eyes narrowed. "I do not know this woman," he said, clipped. "I do not know her mother." I spoke for the first time since he walked in. "You placed the hold within minutes," I said calmly, "based on a narrative that told officers I would flee. That is not random." His gaze locked on me, and I felt the familiar pressure of someone trying to make me small in a room full of witnesses. "Dr. Carter," he said, "your tone is inappropriate given the circumstances." Supervisor Lang didn't let him steer it into my personality. "Play the recording," she told Laura. Laura clicked. My mother's voice filled the room again, smooth and urgent. The lie about fraudulent credentials, the demand for an immediate hold, the part where she said she was my mother. Dr. Harlan's expression stayed controlled until the line we'd already heard. Dr. Harlan knows what happened last time. The moment those words played, something shifted in his eyes. Not guilt exactly, recognition, then irritation, as if the room had just produced a fact he couldn't talk over. Supervisor Lang paused the audio. Dr. Harlan exhaled through his nose. "People say names," he said. "That does not mean anything." Supervisor Lang didn't argue. She simply pointed at Laura's screen. "Show him. The intake note," she said. Laura scrolled to a field labeled internal comments. A line sat there, typed by someone in medical staff. "Per Dr. Harlan. Place hold immediately. Caller is credible. Treat as board escalation." Laura's voice shook. This is your note, she said to him. It is under your credentials. Dr. Harlan's face went still. Because a call came in flagged urgent, he said. Because if it was real and we ignored it, the hospital is exposed. The older officer stepped forward one pace, not aggressive, just present. Doctor, he said, we ran the board case number. It belongs to a different person, different county. We have that confirmed. We will also have a recorded call of the caller identifying herself as the surgeon's mother. If you want patient safety, the safest thing now is correcting the record immediately. Dr. Harlan looked from the officer to Supervisor Lang, then back to me. You have enemies, he said, quietly enough to sound like advice. This is what happens when people are threatened by success. I almost laughed. Almost. Because it wasn't enemies. It was family. Supervisor Lang's voice hardened by 1 degree. Dr. Harlan, she said, I need you to lift the hold. His lips pressed together. Not until I speak with Risk, he said, as if the hold wasn't already a risk, as if he hadn't already watched the proof stack up on the desk in front of him. Laura's phone rang then. She answered, listened for 2 seconds, and her face drained. It's switchboard, she said. They say Dr. Harlan's office called them last night. Dr. Harlan's head snapped toward her. What? He demanded. Laura swallowed. They have an outgoing call log, she said, from your office extension to the same number that just called compliance. My mother's number, Supervisor Lang didn't blink. Print it, she said. Laura's hands moved again, and I watched the printer spit out a single page that felt heavier than all the others. Outgoing call log, timestamp, extension, number dialed. It was late last night, after Christmas dinner hours, in another life, in another story. But in this one, it meant something simple and devastating. My mother had not just said his name to sound credible. He had called her. Dr. Harlan's face flushed, then cooled into something harder. That proves nothing, he said. The older officer's tone stayed professional. It proves contact, he said. And when contact happens before a false report, we treat it as potential coordination. Dr. Harlan's eyes flicked to me again, sharp. Are you accusing me of coordinating with your mother? He asked. I kept my voice steady. I am saying the record now shows a pattern, I replied, and I want my career uncontaminated by it. Supervisor Lang stepped closer to him, not threatening, just immovable. You are lifting the hold, she said. Now. Or Risk lifts it, and documents that you delayed after proof of fraud was presented. For a second, I thought he might dig in purely out of pride. Then the door opened again. A woman in a black blazer entered with a badge that said, Risk Management, and a thin file already in her hand. I'm Ms. Rios, she said. Counsel for the hospital. I was told police entered an OR and a physician's privileges were suspended. Her eyes went to me, then to the officers, then to the printouts on the desk. Supervisor Lang slid the recording transcript request and the call log toward her. This is what we have, she said. Ms. Rios scanned for 5 seconds, then looked up. Dr. Carter's privileges are being reinstated, she said, calm and final. Immediately. And the hospital is preserving all call recordings and access logs? Dr. Harlan stiffened. You can't just, he started. Ms. Rios didn't raise her voice. I can, she said, because this is now a liability event. Police. In an OR is an extraordinary disruption. A false report designed to halt surgery is not a family dispute. It is interference with medical care. The older officer nodded once. We will take a statement and file for false reporting, he said. We also need the recording. You will get it, Ms. Rios replied. And we will add hospital security footage of the OR corridor and badge access logs. My phone buzzed again. A message from Dr. Patel. Patient is stable in recovery. Finish up there, I'm documenting everything. I exhaled once, slow, patient safe, record building. Then a hospital security guard appeared in the doorway, breath tight. Supervisor, he said to Lang, we have a situation in the main lobby. Supervisor Lang's eyes narrowed. What situation? The guard swallowed and glanced at me. "Your mother is downstairs," he said. "She's demanding to see Dr. Harlan, and she's telling people you killed a patient." For a moment, the rooms didn't move. Not because we didn't believe it, because every person there understood what that sentence meant in a hospital. You don't say, "killed a patient" in a lobby unless you're trying to set a fire you can't put out. Ms. Rios was the first to speak. "Absolutely not," she said, voice calm and sharp. "Security, remove her from the premises, now." The guard nodded and stepped back, already moving. Dr. Harlan's face had gone rigid, but his eyes were tracking consequences now, not control. "That's outrageous," he muttered. Ms. Rios didn't look at him. She looked at Supervisor Lang. "Privileges reinstated," she said again. "Put it in writing. Send to OR leadership, medical staff, and credentialing. And I want a formal incident report that names the false caller." Laura was already printing, hands steadier now that authority had arrived. The older officer turned to me. "Dr. Carter," he said, "we're going to take a statement. False reporting, interference with medical care, and potentially impersonation of a board entity, if she claimed that," Ms. Rios added. "And defamation, if she's saying that in public." I nodded once. "I want everything preserved," I said. "Call recordings, badge logs, corridor footage, the hold audit trail, and the original police narrative." Ms. Rios met my eyes. "You will have it," she said, "and you will not be alone in this." We moved toward the lobby together. Supervisor Lang, Ms. Rios, hospital security, and one officer. The other stayed behind to secure the medical staff file and collect prints. The elevator ride down felt like a slow descent into someone else's chaos. When the doors opened, we heard her before we saw her. My mother's voice carried, bright with outrage, carefully pitched for maximum audience. "This hospital is covering for her," she was saying. "She's unstable. She shouldn't be operating. Someone is dead, and they're protecting her." People in the lobby had turned their heads. A volunteer at the information desk looked frozen. A couple of visitors stood near the coffee kiosk staring like they'd wandered into a scene by accident. My mother spotted me and immediately pointed, eyes wide like she'd found the villain. "There she is," she said. "She did it. She killed him. I told you." Security moved fast. 2 guards positioned themselves between her and me. Ms. Rios stepped forward, posture calm, voice firm. "Ma'am," she said, "you are trespassing. You will leave the hospital immediately." My mother's eyes flicked to Miss Rios's badge. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Hospital counsel," Ms. Rios replied. "And you are being removed." My mother tried to pivot into tears, instant and practiced. "I'm her mother," she sobbed. "I'm trying to save lives." The older officer held up a hand. "Ma'am," he said, "we have a recorded call of you identifying yourself as her mother while making false claims about her license status. We also have confirmation the case number you provided is not hers. You will stop speaking now." My mother blinked, the tears pausing mid-performance. Then she recovered, voice rising. "I have proof," she snapped. "Everyone knows." "Ma'am," Ms. Rios said, "any further statements will be documented as defamation. You have already disrupted patient care today. This is not a debate." My mother's eyes darted past security, searching for Dr. Harlan like he was an ally who would appear and validate her. And that's when she saw him. He had come down behind us, staying a step back, face tight. He looked like someone who suddenly wished he could rewind the last 12 hours. My mother's expression changed instantly. Relief, then entitlement. "Harlan," she said, stepping forward as far as security allowed. Tell them what you know. You know she shouldn't be operating. You know what happened last time." The lobby went so quiet I could hear the elevator ding behind us. Dr. Harlan didn't answer her. He looked at Ms. Rios, then at the officer, then at the crowd of watching faces. And the only thing he said was, "Ma'am, you need to leave." My mother stared at him like he'd slapped her. "You called me?" she hissed, low enough that only the closest people could hear. "You said you'd handle this." Ms. Rios's eyes sharpened. "Excuse me," she asked, turning slightly toward Dr. Harlan. My mother realized what she'd just revealed. too late. The officer's gaze locked onto her. "Repeat that," he said, calm and dangerous. My mother's mouth opened, then closed. "Nothing," she snapped. "I didn't—" Ms. Rios held up her phone. "Security," she said. "Escort her out and keep her away from staff." The guards took my mother by the arms, not violently, firmly, and began walking her toward the doors. My mother twisted to look, back at me, rage burning through the tears. "This is what you wanted," she spat, "to destroy your own mother." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't give her the scene she came for. I looked straight at her and said, quiet enough to keep it clean, loud enough to be heard by the people who mattered. "I wanted to operate in peace," and I said, "You chose to weaponize the police." The officer stepped closer to Miss Rios. "We need the call recordings and the outgoing call log that shows contact from Dr. Harlan's extension," he said. Ms. Rios nodded. "You'll receive them under preservation," she replied, "and we will cooperate fully." She turned to Dr. Harlan. "Doctor," she said, still calm, "you are on administrative leave pending investigation. Do not contact staff about this. Do not delete anything. Do not make calls on hospital systems." Dr. Harlan's face went pale. "That's excessive," he whispered. Miss Rios didn't blink. "It's policy," she said, "and it is now part of the record." My phone buzzed again. A message from Dr. Patel. Patient awake. Stable. Family grateful. I documented the police entry time and the disruption. My chest loosened slightly. Because the patient lived. And because my mother's lie in the lobby had been the final mistake that made everything undeniable. Later that afternoon, my badge worked again. My privileges were reinstated in writing. A formal memo went out to OR leadership stating the interruption was based on a false report and that patient care continued safely. The police took my statement and opened a case for false reporting and interference with medical care. Hospital security saved the corridor footage. Medical staff preserved the call recording. Risk preserved the audit trail. Every system my mother tried to weaponize turned into a witness. And at the end of it, the thing that mattered most wasn't that my mother was removed from the hospital. It was that her name was now attached to a case number that wasn't hers to control. Because from that day forward, when she tried to tell people I was dangerous, the response wasn't an argument. It was a record.